So we've been involved in pay negotiations with the Bland Group for staff at Gibair since December, and unfortunately, and with government as well, been involved in those discussions as it's a government contract with the company. These negotiations started in December time. They've gone forward. The offer that's been presented by the employer has been a zero, basically no increase in pay, and a 2% increase in employer contributions in staff's pensions. Now, that has been resoundingly rejected by staff. They have not entertained that offer at all. So what we've requested from Bland is an improved offer to come forward. They've not been willing to provide that offer coming forward. We've also had discussions with government on this as well, and they committed to giving the cost of living increase, which obviously this year is also zero. So these staff, which are not on large wages and have not had an increase now for the last 3 years, are in a situation where both company and government are in a situation where nothing has been offered in a wage increase. So it's brought negotiations now to a stalemate. We had a situation where we balloted staff on what action they were willing to take as a result of the negotiations basically coming to a sort of a stopped position. That mandate was quite clear. It was 92% in favour of those willing to take action short of strike action. So that's what's taken place today, and it's been 86% in favour of action inclusive of strike action. But we have not followed through on that yet. It's an unfortunate situation to be in. We've urged the company and the government to come back to the table. Let's try and get a better deal forward for the staff that are affected by this. At the end of the day, we want a solution for both staff and passengers. But when staff are presented with such a poor offer, the cost of living at the moment is incredibly difficult for people in Gibraltar, and they have to take a stand.
There have been mixed reports from the airport today. I think some passengers were understanding that perhaps action needed to be taken, but obviously there's been a lot of collateral damage, passengers who were held up, passengers who perhaps had babies, elderly, infirm passengers that might have had a very uncomfortable experience. Have you a message for them?
Yeah, no, we understand that the frustrations they will have today in terms of travelling to and from Gibraltar, especially through the airport. At the same time, they also clearly understand our position as well. We've seen many comments online in favour of those Gibair staff that are undertaking the action there. I think people appreciate the action that's going on. Again, we can't look at this in isolation. There is action also taking place in Malaga Airport with Ryanair and EasyJet staff. There is obviously action going on in the railways in the UK, which obviously is the main transport link for many airports in the UK. So this is an issue that is affecting many workers across many jurisdictions. For the staff, for the passengers that have been affected, we understand your frustrations on this. Believe me, we don't want to be in this position either. But equally, I'm sure they understand ours as well. This wouldn't be happening had it not been deemed necessary. At this moment in time, the planes are still going ahead, obviously delayed to quite an extent. We don't want to look to further escalation, but we need the company to come forward, sit down, and get round the table again. That is the way negotiations are done. As an organisation, as a trade union, both in the private sector, public sector, the Ministry of Defence, we have negotiations on many different issues. And as an organisation, we are currently undertaking negotiations in many areas, and we're not having to resort to industrial actions. So, industrial actions only becomes an option when there is no other let out to get through.
That How much notice did you give Bland that this would be a step that you'd take?
So we notified them of the ballot taking place. They were given a week's notice of that the action would take place if nothing came through. During that week, I wrote to the Bland Group as regional officer to say, look, we really want you to come forward and let's try. And they made it quite clear that the position remained unchanged at this time, which was very disappointing. Usually when a mandate like that is given in the advance, it is done for exactly that, to avoid the action. But when they were quite clear that no meeting date was offered, we are left with no alternative.
Given the ongoing disruptions that are already taking place at airports around the world, as well as the general financial situation that we all find ourselves in, do you think that now is the right time to be pushing for higher wages?
Well, the reality is that many of our members across all different sectors, economic sectors in Gibraltar, are feeling the pinch. There is currently 8% in inflation, which is likely to go even higher. This particular staff group, the average earnings, for the vast majority of staff, they will take home an hourly rate of £8.38 with a number of allowances on top. This is not a big sum of money that they are taking home, and they are certainly feeling the pinch. And they are saying to us quite clearly, we have not had a rise for the last 3 years. The reality is there is you ask an employer, well, when is a good time to take action? There is never potentially a good time. I don't think they could pinpoint an exact time they would want us to take action. It's not something we do without it being absolutely necessary. But what should happen is there should be a conversation with, consultation with staff to actually try and find a better solution to this. But the offer we have now on the table is simply not good enough. We want them to come back to the table so we can get a solution for our members, but at this moment in time that's not forthcoming.
And having shown that they won't necessarily bend to the pressure that you're applying on them, is there a date that you've set for when you might escalate further?
Well, we haven't set a date at this time. The action has just started today. The vast majority of members have obviously taken part in that action. That's what's led to the delays at the airport today. We would like to think that we would not have to see this sort of high risk gameplay from both government and Blands to actually come around the table again and try and dampen the fires, as it were. But if they are not willing to come forward, then we will consider escalation. We have the mandate from our members to have that as escalation as an option. We hope we don't have to use it, but at this moment in time, unfortunately, it is on the table, yes.
Have you considered when that might be escalated? Are we talking days, weeks, months?
We haven't decided a date for that yet. Actually, we still want them to come around to the table, but if a date is decided, it will be with adequate notice going forward. It won't be just overnight or anything like that. There would be adequate notice to be given to the public and to the company.